I have been anxious since I can remember, to be honest. I don't have a lot of memories of childhood. I've got a really poor memory, but as young as 4 at least, I was very anxious, very sensitive. I think as well, because I spend a lot of time worrying about the future, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about the past.
Yeah.
I mean, I will literally have had thousands upon thousands of panic attacks, and they feel like this is the one. And you know you've had loads and you've always survived.
Yeah. Hi there, welcome to the Great in You podcast. My name's Stephen Panter. As you know, our podcasts consist of us speaking to some really interesting guests, usually with a really interesting story to tell that's kind of got a trauma aspect to it or something significant that they've experienced. And we have done a number of podcasts now. This is the first podcast today that we're talking about women's mental health. I've got a fantastic guest, a friend of mine who's a teacher, a therapist, provides kind of support for young people, mindfulness, and she's a great guest to have on. I've known her for probably about 10 years, maybe even longer. And you know, I'm hoping that you're going to enjoy today's podcast. So welcome, Ellen.
Hi, thanks, Steve.
Yeah, and welcome to the podcast studio.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yeah, it's nice and professional, isn't
It's
it?
gorgeous. Yeah.
Hopefully the cameras and the heat off the lights and stuff are okay.
Yeah.
It can sometimes get a little bit warm in here, but
Yeah.
I digress. So welcome
Thank
to
you.
to the podcast, and I know that we've had a few conversations around what I thought you could bring to the podcast.
Yeah.
I know that women's mental health is something that's really, really important.
Yeah.
There's not enough podcasts out there about it, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to kind of thank you for coming on today and talking to us about that. So what we'll do is we'll obviously have a conversation about your kind of your early years and growing up and school and what that was like, and whether there was any kind of traits of any kind of mental health need or anything like that. Because I know, obviously being honest with our viewers, it's something that's affected you later on in life. But then you've gone on to provide some fantastic support for young people, become a brilliant teacher. We used to work together in the school. I was a governor in your school for a little while.
You were.
So yeah, we've known each other for a while, haven't we? But
Yeah.
I really wanted our listeners, to really get a deeper understanding, really, of women's mental health. So thank you for coming on.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking me.
Oh, thanks.
Mhm.
So I suppose the first question is I like to kind of to talk about kind of your background and what life was like growing up in your family in school. So I don't know if you want to tell us a little bit about that and what that was like for you. Was it a good experience? The positives, anything that you struggled with, that type of thing.
Yeah. So I have been anxious since I can remember, to be honest. I don't have a lot of memories of childhood. I've got a really poor memory, but as young as 4 at least, I was very anxious, very sensitive, didn't really like going to school. I preferred being at home, felt safer at home. And I've about 10 years ago, I found out actually about a trait called HSP,
Okay.
highly sensitive person, and 15 to 20% of people are HSP. It's not something a lot of people know about. I think we should all know about it. It's so strange
Okay.
that we don't. But as a HSP, you have a highly sensitive nervous system. So you'll often find children who are quite nervous, quite anxious, are HSPs. You have a kind of, you're more likely to suffer with anxiety if you're HSP, and also 15 to 20% of most animals are HSPs. So the cats and dogs that are more nervy are HSPs, and then you'll have the more laid back ones. 80 to 85% of the more laid back ones, more willing to take risks. That's never been me. I've always thought the bad things would happen to me. I didn't even think I'd make 16. I thought I won't survive until I'm 16.
Have you been kind of a glass half empty kind of a person where you've always felt more negative than?
I don't know whether pessimism is it more you're wired to look for risk.
Yeah.
So you feel like things are more dangerous than most other people.
Okay.
So you're more prone to anxiety. So I see so much amazing things in the world and so much joy, and I'm so grateful for being here and being alive and all of that. But at the same time, something that somebody else wouldn't find scary, I might think, well, I'm probably going to die if I do that.
Yeah.
you know, or you just perceive risk as a bigger threat
So
than it
it's kind of
usually
more
is.
significant to you. Yeah. Are you constantly kind of looking around and scanning, and
I do
you're almost
scan.
almost kind of risk assessing all the time?
Yeah, because the reason they say HSPs exist is like from an evolutionary standpoint is so that we were the ones back in cave times that would be listening for the noises.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a crack in the bush.
Yeah.
Something's coming. Warn everybody else.
Yeah.
So we'd be usually on the sidelines, more alert,
Yeah.
looking for the dangers.
It's kind of fight or flight, isn't it?
Yeah,
Adrenaline as well. That's why you have an
yeah,
adrenaline gland.
and so you're more sensitive to sounds,
Yeah.
light, touch. You know, all of the senses are heightened because
Yeah.
you've got a more sensitive nervous system,
Yeah.
so that you were more on alert for the survival of the group. So you're warning everybody else before they've even realised there's a threat. It was for the survival of the group, and I actually heard that there was an experiment with monkeys, I think it was, and they took the HSPs out of the group, and after a certain amount of time the group died because the HSPs were warning them of the dangers.
Yeah.
And the 80 to 85% of people, they say maybe we needed more of them because they were more likely to die because they were taking more risks, but we
Yeah.
needed that too. We needed to take risks and grow
Yeah.
and all of those things. So there's a purpose for HSPs, but it is hard to be a HSP in a world that's not set up for sensitive people, really.
Yeah. So hold that thought a minute then, because I do like to go back and try and figure out when this type of thing started to affect you.
Yeah.
You know, so from a sensitivity point of view,
Mm-hmm.
I know you said your memory is not great from when you were younger. Do you think that's a coping mechanism, or what do you relate back to your memory, not being able to remember
My
stuff?
mum's got a really terrible memory, and I've just inherited
You
it.
think it's like
Literally,
genetic?
yeah, I think
Yeah.
I've literally inherited it. She forgot that she gave me and my sister middle names, and told my auntie about 20 years ago, "I know I didn't give the girls middle names. I only gave David middle names, who's my brother." And she said, "No, you gave them all middle names and listed them." She was like, "Oh yeah," like that's my kind of mum's memory. So
You've got similar.
not as bad as that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like a lot of it just goes. I think as well, because I spend a lot of time worrying about the future, I don't spend a lot of time thinking about the past. Yeah. Obviously you do, but
I think I'm quite similar in that sense, because
yeah.
I think it can be linked to trauma. So I don't associate myself with experiencing some of the things I've experienced when I was little. I think it is a coping mechanism. I think it hasn't made me anxious. It's made me just go, well, that's there, and I've had a journey, and this is where I am now.
Right.
I tend to very rarely think about that past aspect, so it doesn't make me. I don't feel nervous in that sense. So you said before that you felt anxious since you were really little.
Yeah.
Did you feel it? Did you know you were anxious at the time, or
No, I didn't know.
did you feel that that was just what were your thoughts around the time? I mean, when you're 4 and 5, you don't exactly reflect on whether you're anxious or not.
I just didn't want to be away from my mum and dad. I just wanted to be at home. I felt safer at home, and that's a very typical HSP trait.
Yeah.
Feel safer at home, whereas my sister wouldn't miss a day if her leg fell off. You know, she was going into school, and I was just like crying, feeling sick, and then it would go to the point where I'd be crying and they couldn't really get me in, and they'd have to kind of force me in. And then it wasn't really that school was bad, but I was very anxious of I remember I moved school when I was 8 because we moved house, and I thought that the teacher was going to shout at me because we were doing something about the magic dragon or something. We were making our own book, and the tag was fraying and it was going to break. The tag was going to break, and I thought the teacher was going to scream at me. So I was so relieved that I was moving school. And I remember on my last day, she was like, "Ellen, your tag's breaking. I'll get you a new one." I was like, "Oh my goodness!" I was so happy that I was moving school because of that, and she wasn't even bothered.
But you kind of almost
catastrophized
it.
Yeah, catastrophized. And I think you are so much more likely to catastrophize. They say it's a neutral trait because it's got pros and cons. The cons being you're very sensitive, you can be prone to anxiety, we're not really set up for sensitive people, but the pros are that you can often be very empathetic.
Yeah.
And I think even as a very young child, I always cared a lot about animals. And I remember standing in front of a rat. Somebody tried to throw a brick at a rat who was stood next to the rat, and the rat was running around my legs. But I wouldn't move because I didn't want them to kill the rat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So I think that's part of the reason I you know, I'm anxious
Yeah.
because I'm a HSP, and a HSP is a genetic trait, and I think my dad was a HSP too.
Yeah.
Um,
So is it, what you were saying there about, so if some people listen to your story about being young, and obviously little and not wanting to be detached from your parents and feeling safe there, some people straight away would make an assumption that, well, that's an attachment disorder, or, is that something that's been discussed? Or have you reflected on that now, knowing what you know now? Was there anything that happened that could have caused you to behave like that? Where you were so worried about being
separated.
separated, or
I don't think so when I was little, but then my memory's so bad. I don't know. I went to a play school. Maybe I was 3, 4. My mum taught me that was the first time I'd been to something like that, like childcare. And I remember screaming, being taken along the road, screaming, and my mum was taking me. She probably needed a break because she had 3 of us under 3.5. She had my younger sister and brother, but she also probably thought I needed to socialise. And I remember screaming, but my mum says I was never the same after that. And she took me in one day, and there was a priest there, and she didn't get a good vibe, and she never ever took me back. And she took me somewhere else. I was happier, but I was never the same. But I don't remember anything bad happening. I don't know if it was purely the first time I'd had to be separated
yeah,
from my mum and dad, and that was always going to be the case,
yeah,
because HSPs very much do react like that in situations like that when they're young. That's very typical.
What were your friendships like with other children when you were that age? Were they okay? Were they? Because I know you to be quite a sociable person
Yeah,
on the outside. By the way,
yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
how you feel internally about
yeah,
those
yeah,
social situations,
yeah,
but you're very kind of warm and tactile, and you welcome everybody, and you do all those natural things that come naturally to somebody that's sociable.
yeah.
But do you have to work really hard on that? And is that something that you, obviously you've got your empathy that's attached to that, so that helps, doesn't it? You do appear warm and you appear, but struggling socially, is that something that you did when you were younger? Did you?
I don't think I've ever really struggled socially. A,
No,
a lot of HSPs are introverted, and I don't think I am
no,
introverted, but I do need alone time, which is actually hard now. I've got 2 young children,
yeah,
but I do need that alone time to recharge, because as a HSP, your battery
yeah,
runs down quickly. You haven't got the same sized pot as everybody else in terms of stress, because your nervous system goes into kind of like overwhelm
yeah,
quicker because it's so sensitive.
yeah.
So sometimes I'm like, I can't go to that event. I need to just be at home. But it's not usually because, and socialising drains me, but I enjoy it when I feel up to it.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm introverted. I just think I need some time.
Was,
But
was
when I
it
socialise, I enjoy
was
it.
it always like that, or is this something that's kind of, I suppose, just to rephrase that question, when you were younger, and you had your friendships, did you always feel anxious around? Was it not around people, but more around the situation?
Yeah, it was more
Is
around
that
the situation,
yeah,
worrying about being away from my mum and dad.
yeah,
And yeah, I think it did get worse as I got older. But I think because my dad died when I was 11, it became so much worse. And I have looked into attachment,
yeah,
like you spoke about, a lot in recent years. And I do think
yeah,
I've got an anxious attachment. And I think probably a big part of that was my dad dying and the impact that that had on me.
yeah,
And at that time, I'd started crying myself to sleep at the thought of my parents dying. And I think that's a very common
yeah,
phase that children go through
yeah.
at some point or another, realising that your parents are going to die, and then really finding that difficult. And during that phase is when my dad died.
Okay, so that was during that phase.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's interesting. So how do you feel that it affected you, your dad passing away?
Yeah, it was huge. It was, just went to school that morning. The doctor said he had the flu. He didn't have the flu. I didn't kiss him because he said, don't kiss me in case you catch the flu. And then he collapsed while I was at school. And when I came home, no one was there because he'd been rushed to hospital. And then he died, I think it was a few days later in
So it was
hospital.
completely unexpected.
He had a brain hemorrhage. Yeah, he didn't have the
Yeah.
flu. He had a brain hemorrhage. So,
Wow.
yeah, he was only 47. I'm 41 now. It's just no age at all
Yeah. I'm
to,
47 now. So
yeah.
yeah, it's to think.
Just
would
no
happen.
way.
It's just completely
Yeah,
unexpected, isn't it?
yeah,
How do you
yeah.
think? How do you think that affected you as a person?
it it felt like we were living in a nightmare. So it was my mum and the three of us, and she did amazing, like absolutely amazing.
Your mum is. I mean, I've met your mum. She's
Yeah, like
wonderful.
I'm just so lucky. And my
Yeah.
dad loved us so much. Like I'm so
Mm,
lucky to have the parents that I've got. He
mm,
definitely struggled, I think, with mental health. But back then, people didn't recognise
yeah.
that, and certainly wasn't any label
Yeah.
on things. But I would say he probably had panic disorder or social anxiety, and he was very anxious. So I think some of it might be kind of hereditary with me, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was like living in a nightmare. The separation, I think, got worse, obsessing about something happening to my mum.
Yeah. Which is really understandable, isn't it?
Yeah,
You've got that early childhood where you're worried about that anyway, and you're anxious about that anyway, and something like this happens,
confirmed
and
it,
it
yeah.
just confirms, doesn't it, what you're
Yeah,
anxious about? So
yeah,
your anxiousness kind of,
yeah. So what happened then was I
multiplies.
developed health anxiety, I think immediately, because of my dad's time, because the doctors got it wrong and then he died. I then couldn't trust doctors, and I'd also had
Yeah.
meningitis when I was 9, and the doctors got it wrong with me. So when I was in the hospital, I had a drip in. And I remember my mum crying to the doctors saying, you got to take that out of her, because every
Yeah.
time you top that drip up, she gets worse. And I was coming out in these hives. I was obviously allergic to whatever they were giving me, and they were saying, no, we need to keep that antibiotic
Yeah.
drip in. I'd been rushed to hospital in an ambulance, all that kind of thing. So eventually they listened to my mum, took it out of my arm, and I went home the next day.
Mm,
So that was like, oh, doctors get things wrong.
yeah.
My mum was right there, and she's not a doctor.
Yeah.
And then the doctors got it wrong with my
Yeah.
dad, and he died. So my brain was like, you're going to have to predict all the bad things that could happen to your body now,
Yeah.
because no one else is, you can't trust anybody else.
Do you see that period of your life as a trigger point for some of your experiences as an adult? Do you see that as really significant? Because it from the kind of outside, as us listening in and viewers listening in today, it sounds like that was a real kind of trigger point. But do you see it as that? Okay, us as
Mm.
observers of the
Yeah, yeah.
situation, seeing that. But for you personally, did you see that as something significant and traumatic that happened in your life that maybe still affects you now?
Oh, it does, because
Yeah,
I've still got health anxiety.
yeah,
Yeah, I've still got health anxiety, and that loss, I think, it shifts everything, doesn't it? You just really realise that life is so short, and you
yeah,
could lose anybody at any moment.
yeah,
To go to school and then never see them again, is just huge, and probably didn't make going to school any easier then, because,
do you
you know,
connect that with school and connect it that
I suppose I did,
if you go
yeah.
away and go to school and then something might happen
Yeah, I just wanted to
to
be
you?
with my mum and just
Yeah.
sleep in the bed with her in case
Mm.
anything happened. I'd be next to her.
What's really interesting though is that you had those feelings and those experiences before that
I
happened,
know. Yeah,
almost like you were kind of almost preparing for it in some way, or
yeah,
somehow you had some kind of I suppose idea that something might like that might happen.
maybe.
That's the interesting aspect, isn't it?
Mm.
But so how did it affect your kind of your friendships and things like that? In school, obviously you had that horrible period where you were living that nightmare. What was it like when you went back to school? Did it?
I couldn't talk about it.
No.
I remember one of the teachers, like my tutor, coming over, and she would stroke my hair. I think she felt sorry for me, and she'd stroke
Mm.
my hair, and she'd be like, "Are you okay? Do you want to talk?" And I'd be like, "No, I'm
Yeah.
fine." And I so wasn't fine, but
Yeah.
I couldn't speak. I mean, at 11, I didn't even know what a funeral was, and I was the only one there because my sister and brother were younger, and I
Yeah.
didn't even know there'd be a coffin. Like, it was all just such a shock and such a trauma.
Yeah.
No one had told me what a funeral was, and I don't, 11 doesn't sound that young, but I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't express it at all. And then
Yeah.
we just kind of stopped talking about my dad. But in terms of friendships, I don't think it impacted my relationships, but I became very angry. So
Mm.
before that, I wasn't an angry kid. I remember a couple of friends saying before my dad died, oh, such and such was saying, isn't Ellen so lovely? She's just so lovely and kind. And I feel like it shifted when my dad died. I was so angry.
Yeah.
I was
What
just so angry.
what support did you get kind of in school, at home, externally?
Absolutely nothing from
Nothing.
school. There was nothing then.
No,
There
there
was
wasn't.
absolutely
We
nothing.
were talking about that in the
Yeah,
previous podcast that
yeah,
we came from a time where there wasn't that support, there wasn't safeguarding officers, there wasn't wellbeing coordinators, there wasn't proper CAM service, was the and YPAS and all those stuff
yeah.
that kids can access today.
Yeah, nothing at all.
No,
No, nothing at all. Same with neurodiversity, so
yeah,
many kids undiagnosed, so many adults undiagnosed because
mm,
there was just, the knowledge wasn't there and the
yeah,
expertise wasn't there. But I did go to counselling through my doctors a few years after it happened, maybe a couple of years after it. I
yeah,
don't remember being able to talk again. So it really took me to be an adult
yeah,
before I could actually go to therapy and talk about what had happened.
yeah. So when did you access that? At what age can you remember? Because you've almost got to be in the right frame of mind for that. You've got to let that happen, haven't you? And
Be
sometimes
ready.
it takes you a long time to get
Yeah.
to that stage where you're ready to talk about it.
Yeah, and could articulate it, I
Yeah, yeah.
suppose.
Try and make sense of it and just,
Yeah.
how it affected you and
Yeah, I don't think I had therapy until I had a breakdown at 23. And when I had the nervous breakdown in my final year of university, I I dropped out of university and nearly lost my whole teaching degree. And they were going to let me lose my whole teaching degree because even then, that was nearly 20 years ago. There was just no, there was still so much stigma around mental health now that it's a choice,
yeah,
but even more than 20 years ago. So they were going to let me lose my degree because it was like, well, if you can't finish your placement, you don't get your qualified teacher status, you don't get your degree. And then I accessed women's mental health support at the Swan Centre, and they helped me so much. I had some hypno-relaxation, which led me to have, I think, a couple of flashbacks of past lives. So that was a
right, okay,
first and a bit
okay,
shocking because I didn't believe in past lives.
yeah,
And had therapy with them. And then I told them, I'm going to lose my degree, and I didn't think they could help me. And they said, that can't happen. And they put me in touch with Sefton Advocacy and they called the university on my behalf. The university wouldn't listen to me, didn't seem to care. But once an adult, even though I was 23,
yeah,
spoke for me and said, what are you doing? This person is mentally unwell and
yeah,
needs understanding and
yeah.
support.
Did you
Not
feel discriminated against at the time? Did you feel like they weren't listening? They
Yeah, I
weren't,
bet you'd if I'd suddenly been diagnosed with diabetes or something and I'd dropped out of my final placement because I was really unwell
yeah,
physically with something, whatever it might be.
yeah,
I'm sure they would have let me complete it the following year, but
yeah,
because it was anxiety and I was really unwell, like really couldn't get off the couch unwell, um, they they just were ready to just let me lose the whole degree, because that must have been a choice, maybe.
yeah. No,
It's
it
just terrible. It's
sounds
terrible.
terrible. So just rewind a sec then,
Mhm.
rewind back to school.
Mhm.
'Cause we'll pick that up in a minute. We'll come
Yeah.
back to that. So obviously, you're 11, 12, you have to go back into school. How did you cope with the rest of your kind of school life? What was going on in school? How did you manage? How did you get through that? And also what was the outcome of your school? Did you do okay? But first of all, how did you actually navigate the rest of your school, having had such a traumatic incident that happened to you?
Yeah.
So how did you do that? Who helped you? Who supported you? So was it, friends, family? What did that kind of next 4 or 5 years look like for you?
I suppose at that age, you kind of become all about your friends. And I had a good group of friends, and some of whom you are good friends with, and they helped me. Yeah, they helped me. And then I just kind of threw myself into the socialization of being a teenager,
Yeah.
doing, drinking, things like that shouldn't have
How,
been.
how did they help you?
I think just being kind. They were
Yeah.
good people. They were kind people, and if I did say I was feeling anxious, they would look after me. Yeah, they would look after me. So
So they made you feel secure in school then?
yeah, I mean, I didn't feel totally secure. I still didn't really want to go,
Yeah.
and my mum didn't know what to do with me half the time. She's she's always had to just get on with things.
Yeah.
She's amazing, but I feel very deeply. I express that, and I'm very sensitive. And I think sometimes that was a lot. That was a lot for my mum. But she's been a rock, like just an absolute rock. But health anxiety was hard for her because, you know, say I was 13, rocking in a corner with a headache saying I've got a brain tumour. You know, that's repeatedly, that's a lot. And she's grieving and got 2 other children to look after, and she's got to provide for us, you know, so it was a lot for my family as well. Everyone's just doing their best, aren't they? Yeah, so I got through school. I got, you know, good GCSEs. I was in the paper for my GCSEs. That was kind of my level, because A levels I didn't do that well at. But GCSEs
so why were you
well
in the paper? I think the reason I want to know more about that is considering what you went through, considering that significant bereavement in your life, you still managed somehow to get, you know, wonderful kind of GCSE results. What happened? Why were you in the paper?
I was the 10th top, so they put the top 10 from our school in the paper. So I got 6 A's, a B and 3 C's, and some of the staff were shocked. Like they didn't expect that. And I was like, where's the grade? It can't be that A. And she was like, it is. Yeah, I know. We didn't expect that either. But you know what? I've got to say, I've got a terrible long-term memory, but I've got a good short-term memory. So if I revised the night before, I remembered it all. But ask me 2 weeks later, it's gone. So really, that's quite unfair, isn't it, on other people who don't have good short-term memories.
So thinking, you know, obviously part of this podcast is to help educate people that are in similar situations, that have got family members that are either experiencing bereavement or suffering with anxiety. Or what do you think it was that kind of helped you to focus on your schoolwork and produce, aside from your memory? You must have been, you know, you must have had certain levels of motivation and resilience and those things. What do you think it was specifically for you?
I think I always wanted to do well, you know, achieve. I don't know. I wanted to make my mum proud. I think I wanted to make my mum proud. Yeah. I just wanted to do good things with my life. I suppose I just kept going. Even when it was difficult, I kept going in.
Yeah, and then you had a good circle of friends, and so it started kind of coming together for you, didn't it?
Yeah.
In that sense, you know.
Yeah.
Were you kind to yourself in that period? Did you congratulate yourself on how well you'd done, or did you?
Never.
Is that something that you do? You don't do that?
No.
No.
I try more now
Yeah.
to do that. I have to make a conscious effort.
Yeah.
I don't really think about the things that I do well. I beat myself up about the things that I don't do well.
Are you good with praise and things like that? Are you good with other people saying to you?
It makes me feel good temporarily, but there's part of me that's like, I don't understand why they're saying that.
Yeah.
I've always felt that way. I don't understand why they're saying that.
Yeah. Do you have like imposter syndrome?
Yeah, definitely imposter syndrome, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously you've done really well in school. You've got this nice circle of friends. You're starting to kind of navigate your adolescence. Then you decide to go to university. And obviously, what was that like? Did you feel anxious about going to university?
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't think I wanted to live in Liverpool. And so I went to Sheffield Hallam, and I just hated being away from home.
Yeah.
I really hated being away from home.
Was that kind of some of your early anxieties?
Yeah. I just wanted to be with my mum.
As I say, about the child development, you develop your behaviour traits in the first 5 or 6 years, don't you?
Yeah.
And I think you just wanted to be near your mum and your family and
probably
stuff.
typical HSP stuff as well. You know, just felt safer at home. And I just came home all the time. And I didn't really enjoy university. I found it really stressful. Training to be a teacher I found stressful. A lot of pressure.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure.
What made you want to be a teacher?
I wanted to work with children. I really love working with children. Well, I actually went, after my A-levels, I went and did 2 years as HND in dance. Loved it. But then I didn't think I was good enough to kind of do that. I just kind of did dance clubs as a teacher, do dance clubs. But then I thought I'll be a child nurse or a teacher. And I thought I can't cope with being a nurse and bad things happening. Yeah. So I thought I'll go and be a teacher.
So you wanted to help people? Wanted
to help people, wanted to work with children, yeah.
Real.
Yeah.
So what, those kind of years when obviously you were going from school to university and stuff, what was happening? Because obviously you were away from home, weren't you?
Mm.
What was happening like with your mum and your sisters at that time? Did you have a proper understanding of that? You know, while you were away, did you did you worry about how they were coping with bereavement and what had happened, or?
Yeah, I suppose I worried about leaving my mum. Yeah, she had my sister and brother at home, and then my sister did move out. But yeah, I always worried about leaving my mum
Mm.
and her being alone. And yeah, I felt very responsible for others, much more than I do now. I've learned to kind of put healthier boundaries and realise that it's not my job to fix everybody and that I can't.
Yeah.
But I was very much a fixer. It's my responsibility to fix everybody.
That must have been a real conflict of interest for you, because you probably knew there was still work to happen at home with everybody, with all of you.
Yeah.
Around the bereavement, and that's something that affected you all significantly. But then you were trying to move away as well. That must have been a real an area of conflict for you internally.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was the decision making around moving away? Did you feel like you needed to get away a little bit as well, or?
I just thought naively probably that I didn't want to live in Liverpool, so I should experience living somewhere else. But then that made me realise I want to live in Liverpool. I don't want to be away from a family.
Yeah.
So that was a good thing.
Yeah. But then obviously you came back, didn't you, after that?
Yeah.
So going back then to obviously university, that last year when you were struggling, and you've already talked about, the struggles with your mental health, and somebody then jumped in and supported you. What happened around that time then? Did you take a little bit of a break? Did you come back in? Did you step back in then and were able to kind of complete the work and your degree? What happened around that, kind of after that person jumped in and supported you?
Yeah. So I got some help around it. So it was like the health anxiety side of things, thinking there's something wrong with my heart. And then I had a heart specialist confirm that I was okay. And I had to draw a line under it and gradually start pushing myself to do things again, like get off the couch and walk. I'm not going to die, that kind of thing. It was literally like, sing. You're not going to die from singing. It was that kind of horrendous. So gradually.
Sorry to interrupt. How does that type of thing kind of, because it sounds quite all consuming, that type of thing where you're physically struggling to get off the couch. How does that kind of manifest itself and consume you? For people that are kind of watching and listening.
Do you mean how did it happen? How did it get to that point?
Well, yeah, how you got to that point is really interesting as well.
Yeah.
But how does it actually manifest? What does feeling like that feel like? In a bit more detail.
Yeah.
'Cause I think for anybody that hasn't experienced it, they'd struggle to understand how you would struggle with something like that.
Yeah.
But lots of people do, don't they?
Yeah.
So it's just just some insight, I suppose, for people on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, how did it start?
So I was drinking a lot of vodka and Red Bull one night. Not a good combination. I think one speeds your heart up, one slows it down. And the next day, I think I had my first panic attack. So even though I'd suffered with panic and anxiety, I hadn't actually had it where it had reached that peak where I felt like I couldn't breathe. So the next morning, hungover, suddenly felt like I couldn't breathe. Oh my goodness, could there be something wrong with my heart? Went to the walk and they sent me to the hospital. Nearly collapsed in the waiting room. They put me in a wheelchair. They wheeled me through, put an ECG on, and then suddenly were like, this is abnormal. Rushed me through. Then they would check on me, putting blood thinners in case I had a clot. Anyone's worst nightmare.
Yeah.
But like for someone with health
trauma,
anxiety.
Isn't it?
For somebody with health anxiety.
Yeah.
Chest x-rays, see if I had clots, see if I had heart damage, all of these things. And then, 6 hours later, no, you're fine. You can go. So relief, go home. Chris was amazing. My now husband, he was amazing. Relief, go home. But I was like, how can I have an abnormal ECG? And then you tell me I'm fine. Now most people would just go, well, they said I'm fine, so I'm fine. And they trust.
Yeah.
I didn't have that trust.
But that adds to that previous mistrust, doesn't it? Of medical professionals.
Exactly. Yeah. I can't trust them.
Yeah.
They could get it wrong. I could be dying. So then it just sort of gradually, I went back to university, it just started to gradually spiral into more and more panic. There's something wrong with my heart. I'm having chest pains. My heart's beating out my chest, that kind of thing. The obsession became all around my heart. Must be something wrong with my heart. The ECG was abnormal. Went to the doctors. She was very much like, just take these antidepressants. And I was like, I don't want to. I'm terrified. And I said, please, can I speak to somebody? Can I have some counselling? That must have been the first time, that I asked for it. She had, the waiting list is too long. Just take these antidepressants. She was
Just
awful.
Trying to medicate you.
Yeah,
basically.
she was awful. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with medication because I'm actually on medication now. But she was awful.
But that was the first step to medicate you.
She wouldn't send me for counselling at all.
Yeah.
And I was like, please, will you listen to my heart? Like, please just listen to my heart and tell me if it's okay. And she was just like, oh. She'd sit
really
there like that.
And
really annoyed with me.
Yeah.
And I was in hell. Like, I was in absolute hell. And it was just no understanding of mental health, no compassion at all. It was just, you are wasting my time. She go, you're fine. And then I ended up just dropping out because I just felt like I couldn't go back to the placement. I thought, I was going to die at any moment. And it just got to the point where I couldn't get off the couch. And then I saw a different doctor who was really nice. And she said, I'm going to send you for another ECG. Let's just get this done.
Yeah.
Came back abnormal.
Right, okay.
She was like, I'm really sorry. And I was just like in floods of tears. And she was like, I'm really sorry. It's going to be a few months, but we'll refer you to like the cardiology type thing. So I was just,
so
even
that
more.
kind of compounded, didn't it? How you were feeling, your worries, your anxiety, your stresses.
Yeah. So, so that's when she, I think, said, there's the Swan Centre, there's the Swan Women's Centre, and it's free, and you can go and refer yourself. So they didn't have to refer me for counselling, and I could go and do it myself. And that's when the Swan Centre. I actually don't
know anything about the Swan Centre. Tell me about it.
It's
Is it
in
still going?
Yeah, it's in Litherland. It's a centre just for women. And they do like complementary therapies. You can go for like Reiki, acupuncture, things like that. They do counselling. They do like groups, so like gardening group, things like that. And they gave me like hypno relaxation and stuff like that at the time. And they were just, I said, if I ever won the lottery, I'd just give them loads of money because they saved. Yeah, they really, really, really were a huge part of saving me.
Yeah.
And
you feel that strongly that they...
I don't think I'd have my degree. I don't think I'd be a teacher because they were the ones who said self advocacy. I didn't know what self advocacy was. I didn't know anyone could speak for me. And it was them that asked them to let me complete the following year, which they did.
So a real kind of crossroads in your life,
Huge.
Surrounded by, anxiety and obviously, worried about your future and those medical needs, worried about your education and every part of your future you're probably worried about at that time. But this person or this company as well and this charity just kind of picked you up and set you running again, it sounds like, and just...
Oh, yeah. And then I paid private to go and see a heart doctor. Yeah. And it was the last of me like student loan, it was the best money I ever spent. I think it was £700 to go and get an ultrasound. And I still remember his name. And he scanned my heart and he said, perfect. That happened. Abnormal ECGs in your age is quite common. And he explained to me.
So he was a proper specialist then?
Yeah, and I still had all that anxiety. Was in the middle of a breakdown. It was a nervous breakdown. I've never been so mentally unwell. I've touched there quite a few times since, well, quite a lot of times since, but I haven't been that bad for that long. It was awful. And I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know I was having a nervous breakdown. And I developed panic disorder because of that nervous breakdown. I developed panic disorder, which I still have today.
So what did that kind of... obviously that support that you got from the Swan Centre, what did that look like? So when you first walked into the door, what were you nervous about going somewhere like that?
Oh, yeah. I had to walk down the road to get there as well and didn't want to go out the house. Yeah. So I was really nervous.
But you must have felt that you need to do it, yeah.
I've always been very much like, I have to fix this. Yeah. Nobody else can do this. I have to do this. And I've just kept pushing forward.
And there is that aspect, isn't there, with mental health that, not everybody's going to fix your problems for you. It's 50% of it's you, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's great that you kind of felt like that. But some people actually can't get themselves to feel that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That's the challenge, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah.
So I think, obviously the Swan Centre was a significant crossroads in your life. And you ended up finishing your degree.
I did. They got,
Were you in the paper?
No, no, it wasn't that good. No, it wasn't that good. But I got my degree. Yeah. And they let me do my placement in Liverpool. Because I was like, I can't go back to Sheffield. I cannot go back. So they let me do, I found it, organised it all myself. But they didn't want that to happen. But Sefton Advocacy sorted it out for me. So got my degree and then I was a qualified teacher and I just graduated the year after my class did.
So just an extra year kind of.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, I think it was the term after.
Yeah.
But I think the graduation wasn't until.
But you did it. You did it. What did that feel like then to achieve that, considering what you'd gone through?
I think it felt good, but again, I'm not great at um kind of seeing my strength. Until very recently, I've always felt very broken.
Yeah.
Very, very broken compared to other people. I don't feel that way anymore,
No.
which is very recent, like only a year or two,
Yeah.
that I don't feel broken, which is amazing. But all my life, really, I've thought, why can they cope and I can't? Why
Yeah.
can they go on holiday and not be having panic attacks and I can't?
Yeah.
You know, why are they in that crowd and not worrying?
Yeah.
I can't, I don't even want to go on a walk.
Do you feel like part of that, you said up until a year or two ago, do you think part of that, you've gone through a process, haven't you, of trying to understand how things have affected you and why you are the person you are?
Yeah.
Do you think part of that has been just going through that journey and understanding a little bit more about yourself and how you react to situations? You know, what triggers you? You know, like what kind of, I suppose, how life kind of affects you, really?
Yeah, definitely. And to be honest, the labels really helped me. So knowing that I've got panic disorder, like I didn't know what that was for
Yeah,
years after I had the nervous breakdown. I just thought I was an anxious mess. Do you know what I mean? Like I am just anxious in every
yeah,
single situation and having panic attacks all the time. People don't even know I'm having panic attacks all the time.
yeah.
I would have had panic attacks in front of you many a time.
Yeah,
You will
I
have
didn't
not
know. Yeah,
known. No.
it's like that iceberg thing, isn't it? Where you can see the tip of it, but
Yeah.
then you've got all this stuff going on underneath.
Yeah.
Was that you?
Yeah, and underneath you're just paddling like
Yeah.
crazy, thinking, I'm going to die, you're going to collapse. I don't even feel like I'm here. My heart's
Yeah,
pounding on my
yeah.
chest, I'm hot, I'm sweaty, I'm dizzy,
Yeah,
I'm going to collapse. What if I collapse? The ambulance is going to come. It's all that going through my
Yeah.
head and I'm just smiling like,
Yeah.
people haven't got
Oh.
a clue.
What's going on underneath?
Yeah.
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 Wow. How do you explain that to somebody?
Yeah, but
You
then
know.
hearing what panic disorder was and realising it was a
Yeah.
disorder and that is exactly what I've got.
Yeah.
And that I am,
And the
millions of
symptoms
people
like
have
textbook
that.
as well.
Textbook, millions of people have
Yeah.
that. That's why so many people become agoraphobic.
Yeah.
Because it's not that you're scared of the world.
Yeah.
You're scared of how you feel in the world. You don't want to feel those panic
Yeah.
attack sensations. So a lot of people's safe space is their home.
Yeah.
Or they become functional agoraphobic, which I've been, where you can go to work, home, maybe Tesco's or something. They're your safe spaces.
Yeah. But then you just can't wait to get home. You want to.
Yeah, and anywhere else is triggering because you think, well,
Yeah.
last time I was, you're not even thinking it. Last time I was in Tesco's, your brain's going, last time I was here, you had a panic attack. So there may be a tiger. All it cares about is your survival.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Something here last time made you afraid. So I'm
Yeah.
going to give you a load of adrenaline, a load of cortisol, because
Yeah.
you must need that. And that's the most important thing, that if you need to fight or run, I'm giving you a load of that.
Yeah.
And actually you're just in
So
Tesco's.
again, that affects your balance and your equilibrium, your physiology.
Yeah, you feel rubbish, you
Yeah.
feel like something bad's going to happen, you feel like you're going to collapse. And then Tesco's then becomes a trigger, or any shop.
Yeah.
Every single shop you walk in, those feelings, because your brain goes, well, last time you were here, so it's not trying to hurt you. It's literally trying to help you. But it feels so bad. It just feels so bad. And then you've got to push through that, because if you start to avoid, you do become agoraphobic. And some people don't even get out their beds,
Yeah.
for that reason.
Isn't it? Because I've never experienced, I've never experienced going into a situation where I felt panicky.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if I've been doing a presentation or something like that, I felt a bit kind of, your heart starts beating faster.
Yeah.
So I've felt it in some tiny way.
Yeah.
But it's really hard, isn't it, for people to understand what that actually feels like,
Yeah.
and how it makes you feel. It's not many people talk about the detail of how that can make you feel.
Yeah.
I think what you've done there is given people some really good insight into what might be going through your head and how you might be experiencing the world around you. And you're pulling on those previous experiences, aren't you? And like you said, there's almost a subconscious to it as well, isn't there?
It's a pathway in your brain.
Yeah,
and your
yeah.
brain's always wants you to survive.
Yeah.
So it's thinking, well, last
Well, that's
time.
its primary
That's all it
objective,
cares
isn't it?
about. Yeah, yeah. It's not trying to hurt
So
you.
remove yourself from pain and go towards pleasure.
Yeah.
They're the two things, aren't they, as a human being?
Yeah,
the two
yeah.
main.
Get back to safety.
Yeah.
Run, avoid. But
Yeah.
that's the worst thing that you can do, because then your safe space becomes, you don't want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's not, life's too short for that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And life, there's so many amazing things
Yeah.
to be enjoyed.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
so you've got to push yourself. But
Yeah.
I used to see it as a weakness. And I've got quite a lot of friends who struggle with mental health, quite a lot of friends who
Yeah.
panic and have health anxiety and things. And now I just think, wow, we are so strong.
Yeah.
Because for people who are, going to work and just walking through the door and feeling calm, that's not bravery.
No.
But if you're going into work and everything in your head screaming, don't go in,
Yeah.
because you're going to panic, you're going to feel like you're going to die, you're going to feel like you're going to collapse, and you physically do feel that way. You know, whether you've got a bad stomach or you feel sick or you can't eat and you're going into that fight or flight, you feel like you're not even there. Derealization, depersonalization.
And that's constant.
Not constant,
No.
but like very regular.
Okay.
Less regular now for me. But yeah, a lot less regular now for different reasons. But yeah, at some stages, every day, and can be multiple times through the day, maybe countless times through the day. I mean, I will literally have had thousands upon thousands of panic attacks, and they feel like this is the one. And you know you've had loads and you've always survived.
Yeah.
But in that moment, your brain is thinking, because it's got all those stress hormones, what's going to happen now? What if? And that's part of the panic attack. The what if thoughts are part of the panic attack.
Do you become irrational, or is it?
It's not rational.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not rational, no.
So you become irrational, don't you, with regards to the situation? But I suppose it affects you. Does it affect you in different ways at different times?
It does, but there's always that feeling that something bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're just sat at a cafe with a friend having a coffee, and I'm thinking, I'm going to die now. I feel that disorientated, I'm going to collapse and die.
Do you know what I can relate it to, actually? I think this is similar, but tell me if I'm wrong, I've got this thing where I might walk into a pub, say with Kel or with friends or whatever, and I get that feeling that something's not right in this environment. I'm possibly in danger here.
Yeah.
At a very low level compared to you. I'm not, I don't have the panic attacks, I don't have the thing, but I have that feeling. Yeah. And that starts beating a little bit more. And I think, I need to get out of here because there's going to be some kind of trouble. Yeah. So I'm avoiding it because I don't want it, because I don't want to be part of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that kind of...
Is there always a danger, do you think? Or it's more of a...
No, I don't. It's just a feeling. It's a sense.
Yeah.
That you think something doesn't feel right in here. It doesn't feel... The atmosphere doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
It's almost like that assessment of the room that you're going into, or the building that you're going into.
Yeah.
Is it like that a little bit?
It's like that.
Yeah. But tenfold.
Well, yeah, it depends, because you can have like where it's just reaching like 3 or 4. Yeah. You know, and you kind of like, probably how I'm feeling now. Yeah. It's probably like a 2 or a 3, because obviously this is new to me. I've never been on a podcast, and you know, it's a new situation. And you know, I did feel a little bit dizzy before, a little bit spaced out before when I was talking to you. Yeah. So it's just the stress hormones, and I reminded myself. Yeah. You're not going to feel like this afterwards. It's going to calm down. You know, you're not in any danger.
But you're able to regulate it and
as much, and it's and you can't really like switch it off, because it's just the stress hormones have got to calm down and come out your system to feel better again. So, you know, it's that understanding, but sometimes it's reaching a 10. Yeah, you know, and it's like, I am definitely about to die. Yeah, wow. And it's horrendous for anybody, and most people will have at least one panic attack in their life. Like, that's statistically true. Yeah. But when you become afraid of them, and you become afraid of how they feel, and you start panicking about having a panic attack, then it can become panic disorder, and that's completely different to having an occasional panic attack.
And that's what you have. I've got the panic disorder. Yeah. So that's a
well worn in my brain.
That's a kind of a real insight into, you know, how that affects you, how panic attacks affect you, panic disorders. Yeah. So thanks for that, because I don't think, you know, I've never heard it spoken about in that amount of detail, you know, of how it can affect a person. But obviously it affects people in different ways, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I've done that much research into panic attacks. Yeah. It's good, though, in the sense that with the children that I work with, both in school and in my company, I can talk to them about panic attacks. So the kids having panic attacks, they can come up to me and I can tell them what's happening, how it feels, they don't feel alone, and what they can do to help it pass a bit quicker. Yeah. But that, even if you do nothing, it will always pass, and don't avoid.
So I'm going to come on to your work that you do as a result of what you've experienced. I wanted to talk to you briefly just about, obviously, your journey to being a mum, you know, and then how that kind of, obviously, knowing what we know about you with regards to your mental health now, how that, I know it was a difficult journey, wasn't it? And a challenging journey, but you've got 2 little ones now.
I have. You
know, which is amazing, you know, everybody was so happy for you. Probably nobody more than your friends and family, and, you know, so, you know, when I found out, I was like, oh, that's amazing, because everybody knew just how much you wanted it. But how did your mental health and your anxiety and, you know, everything that you've just described, how did that affect that journey to being a mum, you know, and as up and down as that journey was, and what you had to go through, you know, how would you reflect on, you know, that combination of your your previous kind of an ongoing mental health condition and needs, and what that journey was like, as you know, trying to get to that point of
Yeah,
parenthood.
yeah. I think I put it off for a few years after we were married because I didn't think I was mentally ready.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that I was broken and that I wouldn't be a good mum with having panic disorder and health anxiety. I'd always wanted to be a mum, even as a kid. So we started trying when we were 30, and it took 6.5 years to get our first child, have our first child, and 4 rounds of IVF and loss and unexplained infertility and a lot of spiritual gaslighting, because I was very much into the spiritual community then. At that point, I was desperate for peace. So I was learning, I'm a Reiki master, I was learning tapping and getting qualifications in that purely to help myself, no one else. Breathing techniques, mindfulness, watched Eckhart Tolle. If you haven't watched Eckhart Tolle, oh my goodness, I just love him so much. I could listen to him all day. And I learned transcendental meditation, which was amazing, absolutely amazing. Just release stress out of my body during that. I highly recommend transcendental meditation. Started to work in a school that practices transcendental meditation. So I had all of these
You were like
spiritual
creating those
practices.
opportunities for yourself, weren't you?
That was meant to be.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
That was,
Yeah.
I went to somebody and was talking about how unwell I was. She was like a thermographer, and her husband's a homeopathist, and I was talking to her about how unwell I was, and she went, "You should look at my daughter's school, the Maharishi school." I was like, "What? What's that?" It's this school that they meditate. And I was like, "What? How do I not know about this?"
Yeah.
And I went home and told my mum, and she went, "I was going to send you there, but we didn't have a car because we didn't have a lot of money growing up at all." She said, "We didn't have a car." And I was like, "I've never even heard of it." So I contacted them.
I'd never heard of it till I met you.
Yeah. Contacted them, and the head said, "We've got a year 2 position," and I was a year 2 teacher.
Wow.
And then I became the deputy for 5 years. It was just
Meant to be.
Meant to be.
Meant to be.
I stepped down from the deputy headship because of the infertility and focusing on the IVF.
Yeah.
I needed to de-stress, and I needed to just focus on that and not have as many responsibilities.
Yeah.
So the infertility, it was horrendous. I was very anxious during the time because at times it just didn't seem like it was going to happen, especially when the IVF cycles failed. To go through all of that, and I was terrified to go through IVF because of the health anxiety. What are these drugs going to do to my body? What if I die? That person got ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome and died. Yeah. That's going to happen to me. I'd read, during egg collection, they can like pierce your bowel. Oh my God, it's going to happen to me, whereas most people would be like, this is a really common procedure.
And just go with it. And
yeah. But I was so scared, so scared.
It's like the detail, isn't it? You need to find out the detail, and then it kind of manifests in worry and anxiety.
I need to know everything, and I wanted to know why we weren't conceiving. It didn't make sense. They couldn't find a reason with either of us. And I'd started to do a load of spiritual stuff to try and fix myself mentally and physically, because of course it must be my fault. It must be because I'm so anxious. And then some of the spiritual, people in the spiritual community did say things like that. When you're not anxious anymore, then you'll conceive. And I was like, well, great, because I've been anxious my whole life.
That's what you mentioned with the gaslighting, the spiritual gaslighting.
Oh yeah, just the worst things that I could hear, because I've got anxiety disorders. When you're not anxious, you'll conceive.
That just makes me anxious.
And makes me so anxious, because it's like, you're telling me I can't be anxious. Well, if you tell somebody you can't be anxious, they're going to be, you know what I mean?
Course,
and I can't help it. It wasn't a choice. I was doing my absolute best to fix these disorders in every way you can imagine. Things that you just wouldn't even imagine. Gosh. Hypnotherapy and acupuncture in places you wouldn't even believe, and every single thing you can think of, and the fertility thing, the things that I tried, just thousands of pounds.
But you got there
through IVF, Western medicine that I didn't trust. And
then you had another little one shortly after, didn't you?
And conceived naturally. So unexpected, and just amazing, absolutely amazing. But I felt very broken. I felt very unworthy. I felt like less than as a woman when I was going through it, and it was so wrong to feel that way, because it's so untrue. Now on the other side of it, it was like, I was always worthy. Children have got nothing to do with your worth as a woman, but I think because we're so conditioned to believe, marriage and children, and actually women who are married and have children die younger than women who aren't married and are child free. Right. So we're not told that.
Okay, no, we're not. No, that's what you have to do. You put in a pigeonhole, aren't you? And you say you have to do this, and if you do this and you do this,
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah,
sounds, to me, listening to you, and I'm sure like our viewers and our listeners will agree that you're so self-aware. You understand yourself so well, but it almost feels like you're still trying to work yourself out as well.
yeah. Probably
But you're
forever.
so,
Yeah,
you're so, reflective and self-aware of what's happened to you and
yeah,
how you were feeling at the time and how maybe you were wrong about that and being honest enough to say, well, I was wrong about that and this is what I
yeah,
did. And that constant kind of striving to understand who you are and, what's happened to you and why you are like you are.
yeah.
So it's really inspirational.
Oh, thank
So
you,
thanks for that.
thank you.
And I didn't know some of this stuff. We haven't actually had that many opportunities to sit down like this and
Yeah,
talk like this. So what I want to talk about next and kind of finally is as a result of your experience and what you've been through, how you now help others. And that's the spirit of the podcast really
yeah,
is speaking to people that have experienced,
yeah,
terrible things and, that have gone through real trauma and things that have affected their life significantly. But then at the end of that, how they have then turned that around or turned it to the side, maybe not around,
yeah.
turned it to the side and then really want to help others and share that knowledge and that experience. So tell us about some of the work that you do, obviously as a, as a teacher, but
Mhm.
also, in your mindfulness practice and things like that.
Yeah. So as a teacher, I'm the senior mental health lead. There's two of us now, because I think I talk so much about my own mental health. So I was kind of like the obvious person. I
Mm.
think when you've struggled with something, you can be the best person to help others with it. So yeah, senior mental health lead and one of the safeguarding leads, and I was the PSHE lead. I'm hoping I'm still the PSHE lead when I go back after maternity. And those kind of subjects and areas are my passion.
Yeah.
I love talking to the kids who's just had a panic attack and helping them. Nothing makes me happier because I wish that somebody had helped me.
Is it easier when you're telling other people rather than yourself?
So, yeah,
Yeah.
and it makes me feel really good.
Yeah.
Like, because I could have literally just had a panic attack. But then if I'm telling you and trying to calm you, you're my focus.
Yeah.
And I feel so calm inside
Yeah.
and I'm giving you all this great advice.
Yeah.
And then maybe I've just had a panic attack myself.
Yeah.
But I use it all and I'm out there living my life,
Yeah.
and I'm living a great life. I'm doing loads of things and yet I have panic attacks.
Yeah.
Um,
But you're able to cope with it more now.
Cope with it more, and most of the time it's not stopping me doing things.
Yeah.
It does still stop me doing
So
some
it's not
things.
life limiting. It's
Mostly not life
Yeah.
limiting, and I even the bits that are, it's okay because I am just so grateful for what I've got.
Yeah.
And just, yeah, so lucky and so grateful.
Yeah.
So it's okay. And because I've got these disorders, I wouldn't have created my company.
No.
I
So
probably wouldn't.
tell us about your company then.
So a few years ago, I felt like I had the best mental health that I've ever had. Still got those disorders, but the best mental health I've ever had. And I had a friend who, her child was really struggling mentally, and I knew of a couple of young people who'd died by suicide. And I just had a thought that maybe all of these things that I've learned to help me, which were always just to bring me peace, like the mindfulness, not the transcendental meditation. I'm not a teacher of transcendental meditation, but that has helped me loads. But the mindfulness and the tapping and the Reiki and the breathing techniques and yoga, maybe I could use them to help others, particularly young people, particularly teenagers, because I could have really done with that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of young people could. And so I had that thought, and it just kind of, I then trained as a yoga and mindfulness children and teens teacher, and I kind of put it all together into a company that my mum named the Stress Less Kit. So it's a community interest company now. And I basically run sessions, so I combine mindfulness, yoga, breathing techniques. I ran one this morning for a school.
Yeah.
With children with like emotional and mental health needs and things like that. So I loved it. I just love running the sessions. We do yoga, mindfulness, breathing techniques, tapping, visualizations, and I've ran some classes for adults as well, and I do some Reiki at the end as well if they
Yeah.
want it. I don't do it with the children, but I can give Reiki at the
And I
end.
think what you touched on before there around the need with young people, especially post-pandemic. I mean, I see it all the time in my job. Obviously work with all of our mental health leads across the trust, and we're doing some work in the trust now to kind of review that and commissioned some real change when it comes to young people's mental health. But there's such a need for it now, isn't there?
Massive.
In our high schools, kids are just worried about so much, whether it's exams or results or the
Social
pressure of
media.
just social media is just huge, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And the need for it there is just huge. And the fact that you are using your experience, you haven't just decided to go and do a course and do it. It comes from a very real place, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
And I always see your videos, and I haven't got you into any of our schools yet, but that's the plan. I just think that the work that you're doing is amazing. So I think, you should be proud of yourself. And I know you won't give yourself a pat on the back necessarily, but
yeah.
What you're doing is amazing.
Thank you.
What do you think the impact is then of what you do?
I have had, children come up to me only this week at the end of the sessions and ask, in a session I did earlier in the week in an all-girls school, ask about personal things that are going on for them in terms of how anxiety is affecting them and asking for advice.
Trying to make sense of it.
Yeah, and just saying, what would you do? What would you do? This is what's happening to me.
Yeah.
And so vulnerable, so open, so honest, for the age.
Yeah.
And I just think, wow, like, that's amazing. You feel safe enough to talk to me about that. I mean, this morning we had 2 boys falling asleep in the session, which I just love because it means they feel safe and relaxed.
Calm,
and the teacher messaged me afterwards and said that they'd spoken about it, the session all the way back to school.
Yeah.
And, that to me is just so validating, really, and just, it's just so lovely to hear because that's why I'm doing it. I want them to have these tools forever and not to be in their 20s and 30s and find out these things like I did. I had nothing before that. School, even when I'd go home sick all the time from school, nobody said it could be anxiety. And I'd always think, why do I always feel better when I get home? I don't feel sick anymore.
I think some people dismiss anxiety, don't they, if they haven't experienced it.
Yeah.
I'm not a person that's experienced a lot of anxiety, but I know it's real and I know it's there, and I know even, before I've spoken to you in great detail, I know I've spoken to people before about levels of anxiety that they have. They almost think it's a new fad or a new trend, or people are just saying it's a buzzword. But actually it's a very real thing, isn't it, for people, and can significantly affect people's lives.
Huge.
So, thank you for coming on and speaking to us about it and about your work. I just got one last question really for our listeners and our viewers. What one bit of advice would you give to our listeners if they know somebody that's experienced anxiety, they know someone that's struggling with a bereavement? What one bit of advice would you give for either them as people or people that they care about, with regards to kind of your journey and what you've experienced?
I would say you're not alone, you're not broken, and life is hard. Get as much help as you can. And for me, Eckhart Tolle, mindfulness has just been so key to my understanding that this moment is all we've ever got. Past is gone, future never comes. When it comes, it's now. So it's just this ever-changing present moment that we have to deal with. Always. That's all we've ever got to deal with. And when you can drop into that and out of the busy, addicted mind that doesn't want to stop thinking ever and just wants to go past future, and you can drop into this, that's where you'll find the peace. It's so peaceful.
Well, what else can I say? What an amazing way to finish the podcast, and
thank you.
What wonderful advice for people that are listening. So thanks again. Thanks for coming on, and we'd like to get you on again at some point as well to talk about any other areas of interest that you've got, and maybe talk a bit more about the Stress Less Kit and work that you're doing, and
thank you.
Maybe get the views of young people as well. I want to do that a lot more on the podcast. But this has been a fantastic podcast, and thanks so much. And
thank you.
So insightful, and people will definitely learn something from this, and we've learned so much about you. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. I really enjoyed that, and really enjoyed speaking to Ellen. So we'll see you again next time on the Great in You podcast. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody, for listening to the Great in You podcast. We really appreciate your support. Please like, subscribe and share, and the podcast will be available on Spotify, YouTube and all other social media platforms. Thank you so much. See you next time.